welcome to the Aces Up Your Sleeve podcast. I'm Sabrina.
And I'm Cade.
And we are your friendly neighborhood autistic aspect kinky therapist here to talk about like autistic relationship therapist kinky bullshit. God, I'm so good at these introducing the podcast parts.
It's
Quick
so hard to
disclaimer.
summarize it. Like, we talk about so much, and depending on what you all ask us, we can talk about even more variety of things.
Exactly. You know, I've never been good at like a quick, snappy anything. Quick disclaimer, this is not therapy. It is not therapeutic advice. It is what we might do if we were in your position and our thoughts on the situation. The situation being an interesting one today. Okay, so I'm going to give a disclaimer about myself after I read the first question because I don't want anyone coming for me. Our first question today is, I realize that this is popular lately from TikTok to YouTube and beyond, but I'm 98% sure that I'm autistic. But being born in 1982 and having a relatively high IQ, I was never diagnosed. I want to hear from millennials who were diagnosed as autistic, self-diagnosed later in life, or never diagnosed. If you are on the spectrum, please share your life experiences. Is it worth seeking a diagnosis at 41? I am a zillennial. I am literally on the cusp. Some people would count me, born in 96, as a millennial. Some people would not. So here is your forewarning. I'm still weighing in, but, you know.
I think that's okay. I mean, you're there to witness what's happening with the autistic millennials. I think that's fair.
Yeah, and like I said, like, I am... literally some people count 96, like people count 96 as the cutoff, but where 96 itself falls is up for debate, I guess. So
Yeah, and maybe we should do like some other generation episodes too and have some guests on who can speak to like autistic boomers and zoomers and all the things. Yeah.
All the things, yeah. Yeah, so that's just my quick little disclaimer. Don't come for me because I'm young. Don't come for me because you hate me, because you ain't me. But yeah, I think that this is such an interesting... It kind of talks about something we have talked about before of like, I know this is popular, but I think I'm autistic. This kind of idea that like just because it's popular means that you can't be autistic. It's like, maybe it's popular for a reason.
I know queerness is trending right now, but I'm kind of attracted to people of multiple genders. Is that like, is this a social media craze finally affecting my sexuality?
Literally, yeah. I now have language for an internal experience that I've been shaming myself for years. Is it possible that I'm maybe just a piece of shit loser instead of what everyone else is finding themselves to be?
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess for this one, you know, which thank you to the Redditor who asked, I think it's just... So I want to start with the high IQ. I think it's worth saying autistic folks don't inherently have any type of IQ, and the IQ tests are actually not accurate in assessing intelligence, as they say.
And are super racist.
Yes. So not really like that. Whatever your IQ is, throw that concern thought out of your mind because that's not relevant at all.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's interesting. I like that they asked about like folks who were diagnosed, self-diagnosed later in life, never diagnosed, like kind of all of these different experiences. I know we've talked before as well about like our own experiences with our diagnoses. But I think this question of like, is it worth seeking?
Yeah.
That's such a like good question. It's such a common question, and it's such a like personal question that like that answer is actually going to be really different depending on who you are.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like if we talked about disability before, if you are looking to apply for disability in the United States, it could be worth seeking that diagnosis. However, oftentimes they look at physical diagnoses, physical health diagnoses more seriously and will consider those more than a mental health one. So again, you're kind of weighing like, how much does this mean to me? What route do I want to take?
Yep. And then also like, I guess part of it is what will it do for you? Is it going to make it
Yeah.
easier for you to give yourself some grace, or to support or accommodate yourself in the way that you need? That's definitely something that you can work on with or without a diagnosis. And a lot of people do find it easier with a diagnosis, to kind of give themselves the grace that they have a hard time giving themselves without it.
Yeah. Another consideration might be, will it give you access to the right types of therapeutic treatment?
Mhm.
The amount of folks that I know and have worked with who have been told that it's these other diagnoses with very different treatment methods,
Mhm.
and in some cases like similar treatment methods, but the way that they talk about where certain quote unquote symptoms come from is very different than if you were autistic.
Mhm.
They find it quite valuable to know, okay, it's not XYZ, it is because I'm autistic, or it's this and those other things. Has helped them provide clarity to their providers, who then either refer them out or say, oh, actually, I know this other thing that might be more useful, then let's try that route.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think another big part is, right, like, community. Um,
Mm.
and there are going to be a lot of spaces that are, like, autistic only spaces that we wanna be, like, mindful of and intentional about gaining access to, but a lot of them are open to folks who are questioning, and
Mm.
who are just trying to understand more about themselves. That, like, it sounds like this person, like, TikTok to YouTube and beyond, like, that they're maybe online, and that, like, there are actually some really great, like, autistic communities online that, like, might be a great place to start and to give
Yeah.
yourself some space of, like, okay, let's assume that I am, and let's, like, make some friends in this community and see how that feels and what that does for me. You don't need a diagnosis to do that, right? You can do that from your speculation.
Yeah. Absolutely. And if you're surrounded by other folks who are of a similar neurotype and have had similar exploration, they can kind of weigh in. Like this person's asking, can you all let me know what this was like for you? What have you experienced? Sometimes just having those shared experiences is enough confirmation for folks, where you
Mhm.
don't feel you need to seek it out from some professional with these letters behind their name.
Yeah. I think, there's very much this feeling of, like, because it's so popular, like, I am anxious to believe that it might be about me too. Um, but, like, I don't know, I almost think that that is kind of a very millennial way to look at it. Like, that millennials are very like, "I wanna be the only one. I wanna be the first one. I don't wanna follow the pack." And I don't know, I don't necessarily feel that I see that same mindset in, like, Gen Z as much, or, like, other generations, and so I wonder if that is actually part of what's getting in your way right now.
It's an interesting, like, anthropological, sociological view on that. Yeah, totally possible. And I know, especially if you're part of any subculture, counterculture type things, you might feel that extra pressure of uniqueness. And every person is unique. Every autistic person is unique. So you're not
Mhm.
losing that by uh, following a trend or exploring it more for yourself.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, so yeah, I think if anything, um, being a millennial, that is probably the biggest,
Mhm.
like, hindrance, in terms of that, is just that kind of like, "Oh no, it's popular, gross."
Also, when people are saying like, what are your life experiences in relation to not getting diagnosed or your self-diagnosis here? When we think about millennials, and we talk about this a little in our adult autism assessment episode, but you if you graduated pre 2013 and all your teachers missed that you were autistic or thought you had ADHD, you could not actually be diagnosed with both. So if you maybe were a kid who was diagnosed with ADHD, that might be part of why you got missed, because it was not possible with that diagnostic manual to do both.
Mhm. Yep, exactly. Um,
And our
yeah, and
knowledge has changed.
our knowledge has really
Yeah.
changed, and it's so interesting how slow new DSMs come out. Because like, we're still working on the one that I've had since my freshman year of undergrad, which, I mean, it was before that too,
Yeah,
um,
same here, yeah.
but, you know, like, it's outdated. It's outdated. Even like we still don't know how to research this stuff well. Research just leaves so many like blank boxes oftentimes, because it doesn't take a lot of different types of things into account. And so, yeah, I think that there's a lot, right, that could have led to being missed. That I don't know. I don't ever really think that there's something not worthwhile in trying to understand yourself better, even just for your own little knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that a lot of my friends who are also millennials were kind of like, when I figured it out, they're like, oh, maybe we should look into this, or absolutely not, I'm not looking into this. And then eventually they were like, all right, I'm looking into it. You've shared enough autism content that now I actually believe that, yeah, this might be me. We just have very different presentations and expressions of ourselves and our traits.
Yeah. I hear a lot about like oh, when you're autistic, and you're burnt out, all you want to do is be in like a dark room alone for hours. And I'm like, oh my God, I think that I would like literally just suffocate on loneliness, if I did that. And that like it's one of the things I've posted about this before. Like I struggle with so much these big sweeping, in order to, to support an autistic person, this, and like if you're
Mhm.
autistic then this. It's like sometimes, and the
Sometimes, yeah.
purpose of things like that is to like help someone feel seen who's never felt seen before. But I think it also sometimes forgets that there are going to be people who don't feel seen by that, who are like, who extra question themselves now because it's like, oh, I'm not in the right kind of blueprint for autism. And it's like, no, there isn't one blueprint. That's actually the point.
Yeah, especially those of us who grew up really really interested in or with humans as our special interest, or self-help books.
Hmm.
Um any of those things where you quote unquote learn how to be a human from some sort of guidebook or watching other humans. Once you start masking in those ways, things go more overlooked. And you might go, well, I've never had a problem with this social thing because at a very young age, you actually learned how a majority of other people were doing it, or the popular people on social media or on TV. And you just
Hmm.
kind of mimicked that, and it was a non issue for you. And so then sometimes that content leaves you feeling really left out.
Yeah. And also like I will sometimes joke that I was partially raised by therapists, because I've been in therapy since I was like 3, and like that has felt like a much more secure, um, like place for me than my actual parents. And so like even there, like there are going to be things that I picked up from having a safe, dedicated space to come in and talk about, like, why can't I understand this? Or like, I never know where to put my hands and I just feel awkward and bad. And then be validated and be told that like how I am is not bad. That
Yeah.
is going to mean that it is less distressing to me. Not none distressing, but less distressing than for someone who like didn't have that experience.
Yeah, and that's a great point too for folks who are now taking maybe the self-assessment tools like on Embrace Autism. My younger sibling tried to take some and didn't score in as autistic, but later on when I got mine and she started looking into it more, she's like, "Wait a second.
Mhm.
Maybe I filled these out as if I was utilizing my coping skills I've learned in therapy over the last 5 plus years."
Yes. Oh my God. There's that meme. I love it so much. I talk about it all the time. That's like, assessor, do you have trouble wearing socks? Like person getting the assessment. Well, no. Person wearing like getting the assessment in their head. As long as it's a Tuesday and I wear one inside out and they're both purple and one of them has a star on the heel, I'm totally fine. And it's like,
Right.
yeah, those systems are are what we're looking for. But that like for a lot of us, like we worked really hard to find ways to like cope and deal with it because we had to in whatever way.
Mhm.
And so okay, like
Yeah.
this is where I'm at now.
Right, like you won't have any problems with your socks or tags in your clothes if you always buy the same types of socks and clothes that don't have tags and seams.
Or you literally don't ever wear socks. Like I hate socks. I
Yeah.
have like maybe 4 or 5 pairs of socks. I mostly bought them because I was going to Scotland and I knew I was gonna do a lot of walking and I needed to wear good walking shoes. Um, and, like, other than that, I don't be wearing socks. I hate that shit. I can't stand it.
Yeah, that should have been assigned to my parents as a kid. The seams in socks and how they'd have to twist the socks in certain ways to make me wear them or turn them inside out, or the tags on clothes where I would literally cry about it and they'd have to cut them out. And then if there was still that little scratchy bit, no way. So many things people just think are their quirky kid, you know? So I think that's one. That's a really good question. Like, is it worth seeking diagnosis? What does it mean to you? How would it benefit you?
Right.
And is there a way to see yourself through that lens that feels validating enough that you don't need to seek out a diagnosis?
Yeah, exactly. Like, there are tangible benefits that a diagnosis can give you even in adulthood, and, you wanna be really, really clear on what those benefits are and if you can get them from other places, and that's gonna be the only answer to, is it worth it?
Especially right now where it takes quite a lot of resources to get the assessment, financially or certain insurance or living in certain areas with certain providers who are affirming.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. Um,
The
I'll also say there are some folks who will sometimes do, um my friends and I will joke about it as, like, peer review, where
yeah.
it's like, oh, like, there's a song in this show, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, that's called "The Group Mind Has Decided You're in Love," and sometimes I think about that of, like, "The group mind has decided you're autistic."
It's so
And sometimes
true
that
though.
that can feel validating too.
Yeah, it's so true. Like if you know some friends who are autistic or ADHDers or ADHDers, maybe they can weigh in a little bit and help you see. The only tricky part is if they have a very like tunnel vision view of what it means, like just their own
Mhm.
experience, and then it's a little tougher because you might have a very different experience and still be autistic or ADHD.
Exactly. Yeah.
And one more
Yeah.
thing before we switch to the other question. That part about TikTok and YouTube, something you had said reminded me that it's worth saying TikTok videos, Instagram reels, those things are very short.
Mhm.
So Sabrina and I are friends with other therapists who have quite large social media presences, and they make those reels or stories or videos. And they're always like, is this enough nuance? Do I need to give more nuance? Do I need a disclaimer
Mhm.
of like, this is just one way to be autistic, or can I present it as is? So I think as you listen to those and consume that content, keep in mind that whoever's talking is likely just explaining one or two ways to be autistic and is not saying every autistic person must XYZ.
Exactly right. Yeah, that it's a can and not a have to.
Yeah.
And yeah, that, like, 3 minutes is never gonna be enough nuance. I always view it as, like, the point is that I'm trying to get a starting point,
Yeah.
and that's it. And once I can get a starting point, then I can, like, go where that leads me, but, like, a 3 minutes isn't enough to explain what our podcast is about. I mean, like, that's ridiculous.
No, and if you're thinking like millennials, if you think back to Vine, you know how short those
Oh
were?
my
There's no
god.
way. You can't give
There's
a
no
nuanced message.
Yeah. Not at all. Not at all. And even, like, a YouTube video, even, like, video essays, right? Like, that there's a very limited amount of information where, like, people go to school for years for this. Like,
Yeah.
I have 6 years of formal education plus 2.5 years of supervised practice under my belt. And
Yeah.
I am not actually, like, at a degree level that would be allowed to assess in all states. Like, that is how much formalized education that I have. Kate has a fucking doctorate. Like, this is not stuff that, like, it doesn't work to just be like, yes or no, either way, based
No.
off of any of the stuff online.
No, and especially not when a lot of what is posted on social media is for the means of engaging and like marketing and building a following or an audience.
Mhm.
Of course, you're going to give the trendy, like, which office character are you? Because that defines your neurotype. And if you're this one, then it's this. And if you're that one, then it's that. Absolutely not definitive, but it's catchy and engaging. And it sparks a lot of conversation when you say, well, why is Dwight listed as OCD? I thought Dwight would be autism. And so the more that those videos engage people, that's what they're going for. So
Exactly.
take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah. Our next question is also about millennials. I'm a millennial who just got diagnosed with autism and ADHD this year before my 32nd birthday. I feel like so many of my friends and me got missed as kids. What gives? Do millennial autists have similar traits? God, for the answer to what gives, listen to a previous episode of ours on how did I get missed in childhood.
Yeah, the
'Cause
upping the ante content, especially for that one. Yeah.
Yep. Um, but yeah, I hope that this question helps the other question asker feel better about their wonderances at least.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's so true. People, I mean, even now people are getting missed, but at higher and higher rates as we go back in history,
Mm-hmm.
in part because the criteria for autism has been so oddly specific.
Yeah.
Back when it was first diagnosed, there was a requirement that part of it needed to involve psychosis. So if you
Mm-hmm.
weren't having any signs of like schizophrenia or psychosis, then you didn't count.
And then they almost took it back out and left it as just schizophrenia as the diagnostic label for anyone who had
Yeah,
been like there autism is such an interesting like case study in how diagnostics work in
change and
general.
yeah. Yeah. So, all that to say, it's not you, it's not your fault, question asker. This is like a systemic issue, and the issue really with anytime humans try to put labels on things and
Mhm.
categorize
Especially
people
other
into
humans.
yeah, when we're trying to categorize people into boxes, it's really tough because as a millennial, like I said, you just said you got diagnosed with autism and ADHD. That wouldn't have been possible when we were kids. Most of us when we were in high school, still not possible. So not on you, and
Yeah.
not on your friends that got missed either, like, that's just so common.
Yeah. I'm interested in your thoughts on the like do millennials have similar autistic traits or like any kinds of patterns that you see there.
I've seen a little discourse on this about how millennials are, like, the fandom generation,
Mm,
and as a millennial who was into fandoms, absolutely. However, where do you think the furry fandom got started? That was not a millennial thing. Where do
mhm.
you think Star Wars and Star Trek and conventions got started? It's not us.
Yep.
So I think, like, culturally, I bet there are quite a few categories you could lump people into as like kind of a main, like millennials are more likely to XYZ. But I don't think there's a way to say millennials decidedly and definitively XYZ.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it also so like we were talking at the beginning about like I'm a zillennial. Um we can't even determine when the millennial like
Yeah.
does that make sense? Like when the different generation are to and from. That like I think I think baby boomers were like the first time that we actually started to like name and like utilize frequently like a generational label because there was such an interesting phenomena that happened. But after that like it's not a set period of time. Different people view it different ways. Some people view it as like I've had people tell me like, "Oh, if you remember 9/11, then you're a millennial." And I was like, my partner is oh god, however many months February to September is younger than me. And they remember it vividly and I don't. They lived on a
Mm,
military base. Their dad was in the military overseas at the time. Um, and they have a better memory of their childhood than I do. But I'm older than them. So like there's just all these
mhm,
things that I think if we can't even decide on what a millennial is together, then it's going to be really hard to say that like all millennial autists are XYZ and other autists are not or whatever else. It does strike me that like I know there's a lot of like oh social media and like even like I remember I used to hear people talk about like Sesame Street is cutting their like the length of their segments because like they
mhm,
can't keep kids attention and this and that and the third and so I do know that there's like kind of a lot of that kind of stigma coming up around technology
mm.
and like attention spans and things like that but I don't know that like that's enough to say like, oh yeah, so like millennial autists or ADHDers have this extra layer of stigma that may or may not have actually impacted anything.
Yeah, especially because some of the research is showing that in the past, ADHDers are more likely to complete assignments if you present it electronically versus handwritten. So then it's actually a strength to have the electronics around. And
Yep.
there's a newer one that says autistic kids are not, quote unquote, as harmed by technology as their non autistic peers.
Hmm.
So that whole like only an hour of screen time may not be that relevant for your autistic kids.
Interesting.
Um, yeah, but like you're saying, there's really no way to say definitively this is what millennial autists do or say or have more than other types of autistic people.
Yeah.
And it
It's
depends on special interests too,
mm-hmm.
you know, because we could go the technology route and be like, okay, well, lots of millennial autistic people, blah, blah, blah. But if you grew up maybe primarily outdoors with very outdoorsy sports related interests, then everything I'm about to say would be wrong for you and your group of friends.
Yep. And also like what age were your parents? Because like just
Yeah.
because like my partner's parents are significantly younger than my mother. Um and so like how we were raised based on the ages of our
Mhm.
parents is really different. And even like my cousin, oh god, how old are you? Is like 26.
Mhm.
And so Gen Z, but like the old end of Gen Z. And so again, so am I in some ways. And my uncle is 10 years younger than my mom.
Yeah.
Maybe even a little more. And so like we were raised by different, aged people who were engaging in different stuff. So like I grew up listening to a lot of shit from the 80s because that's what my mom listened to.
Yeah.
And I even like I used to have a t-shirt that said made in the 80s. No, I was not. Absolutely not. Not even close. But like I watched a lot of the like I love the 80s, like those kind
Oh,
of things, and I was really into that stuff because that's what I was kind of being raised on. So like you also run into a lot of these issues of like a millennial, two millennials the exact same age raised by parents of different generations are also going to be pretty different based on that too.
oh yeah. Yeah, between me and my friends, like, most of their parents were probably in their 20s when they had them, and my mom was late 30s when she had me and even older when she had my sister, so
Mhm.
that looks a lot different, and my dad would have been even a few years older than her, so getting raised with things from their, like, teen and childhood years as, like, "Oh, my kid can do these things too," is a lot different, yeah.
And then also like their fears, right? Like
Yeah.
um there are in a lot of ways like a lot of millennials were raised in this kind of like go be outside, but then a lot of them were also raised in this like no, like outside is scary
Yeah.
and bad. And then a lot of Gen Z has been raised in like outside is scary and bad and like online is the safe place, but then also some Gen Z has been like, "Oh no, online is scary and bad." And like there's also these kind of like patterns and cycles and like I don't know. I think it's one of the hard parts about like we're talking about such a wide spectrum. Like autism
Mhm.
is such a wide spectrum that anytime that you're trying to say like, oh yeah, here's this big overlapping thing, like unless it's something like communication challenges. Now,
But even
in
that is
what
so
arena is
varied.
that? Exactly.
Yeah.
Like what part of communication challenges you is going to be really different. But if you can keep it nice and big and vague, communication challenges. Okay, yeah, sure. I can get behind that.
Yeah. And I would love to one day see some like research on this, assuming it wouldn't be used in harmful, horrible ways. Because it could be interesting to see, are there any themes over the decades? You know, is
Mm,
there something that's there? And that could be cool and maybe unifying for people who are like, yeah, that was my experience. But we
yeah.
don't have that right now. And I don't even think it's fair for me to take a guess, you know?
No, yeah. I like that's part of the issue is there is so little research, especially once you start getting into like black autists and brown
Mhm.
autists and Asian autists, and when you start getting to um like fat autists and like all of these queer autists, trans autists, like you just run into these huge gaps in the research. And then
Yeah.
also you have to question any research that has been done.
Yeah, especially if it's not done by people that it's about.
Mm-hmm.
So, a really cool question though. I love the thought under that and the
Yeah.
curiosity there, and would love to get, more questions with that type of curiosity in the future, but I don't really have a good answer. I don't think we can have a good answer for them.
Yeah. I think it is a cool thing. Like, if you and your millennial group of friends has like some similarities that you're seeing and like that like helps you stay connected, go all in on it. Like that shit's awesome. But yeah, I don't think that there's anything that stands up to any type of clinical like scrutiny.
No.
Yeah,
No, and again, the like what gives, it was missed. What gives is that we just didn't have the knowledge that we do now, and still people are getting missed. So it's, again, not on you all.
exactly. Exactly. All right. Well, thanks everyone. And make sure to expect new episodes weekly on Tuesdays. You can find Kate at Cryptid Learns and Sabrina at Radical Insights Consulting, me, um, on Facebook or Instagram. And you can add .com to either one of those to get to our websites. If you have any questions for us, visit neurokink.org/AUYS and send it our way. We love answering your questions. And we're going to jump over to Patreon to record Upping the Ante, our exclusive free bonus content over at patreon.com/aces up your sleeve podcast. We'll see you over there.